The golden brown slices of fried plantain glistened with oil as they lay beside the perfectly cooked eggs, their soft yolks gleaming under the morning light. A side of spiced mushrooms, a touch of London sophistication, completed the meal. Chief Nboli savored every bite, relishing the contrast of sweet and savory. As he took a sip of his freshly brewed coffee, his eyes trailed after Blessing, who walked gracefully back to the kitchen. She moved with an effortless sway, her black silk nightie barely concealing the curves he admired so much. For a man like Chief Nboli, power and wealth had brought many women into his life, yet none had quite captivated him the way Blessing did. He couldn't pinpoint what it was about her. Perhaps her confidence, or maybe something deeper. Chief Nboli leaned back in his chair, watching Blessing's every move. She wasn't just another fleeting pleasure, another conquest to be paraded among the elite. There was something about her that had a hold on him, a thought that unsettled him. Had she cast a spell on him? The notion would be laughable, but whispers of juju had already reached his ears. Even his wife in Abuja had hinted at it. Yet, he dismissed such talk. A powerful medicine man from his village had long fortified him against such things. No spiritual attack, no evil influence had ever succeeded in touching him. And Blessing? No, she was no sorceress. She was just a woman who understood the game, who knew how to play her role. Blessing was unlike any of the women Chief Nboli had entertained at the slaughterhouse. Unlike them, she had earned a place by his side in London. His home in Knightsbridge was no mere residence. It was a symbol of power, a reflection of his rise. She had given him some of the most intense nights of pleasure he had ever known. With her, he relived his youth, a feeling that no wealth alone could provide. In his mind, she was no longer just a mistress. She was his second wife in every way that mattered. The status she brought him among his peers was undeniable. A senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, walking arm in arm with a woman of her caliber, commanded a certain level of respect. He was a man of means, a man who lived beyond borders. Yet, in the quiet moments, he knew the truth. Blessing was here to take what she could. And why not? Wasn't that how it worked? After all, as they say in this country, na love she go chop. If only Blessing knew what he had sacrificed to be here in London with her, she might have fainted from shock or slapped him outright for being such a fool. He had given up a golden opportunity, a chance to walk away with $20,000 just to be with her. As chairman of the Senate Committee on Aviation, he was supposed to lead a delegation to a state where the governor was desperate to build an airport. But he had excused himself without a second thought. He could already hear the whispers among his colleagues. Nboli must have been sick to have passed up such a payday, but he didn't care. Blessing was more important. She was what he had always wanted, always needed. This wasn't just about desire, it was about something deeper. It wasn't that he hadn't tried to take a second wife before. As a chief, he was entitled to one. His peers all had two, sometimes more. But Alaba, his first wife, had made sure it never happened. With her powerful job at a multinational oil company, she was no ordinary housewife. She fought fiercely to keep him to herself, shutting down any woman who dared get too close. The rumors about her were endless. Some said she had used juju, others whispered about Kayan Mata. the mystical potions that kept men devoted and blind to other women. Yet, despite her efforts, Chief Nboli had started the train in motion. This time, there was no stopping it. Blessing was his, and she would give him the one thing Alaba hadn't: a son. Sitting in his Knightsbridge home, Chief Nboli exhaled deeply, feeling an unfamiliar sense of peace. London was a world away from the chaos of Abuja, where politics was nothing but a noisy game, and people faked importance just to appear busy. Here, everything was seamless. He touched a switch. There was light. He turned on the tap. Water flowed freely. There was no need to send someone to the bank for cash, no worries about fuel for a generator. Life in this city made sense. He looked at Blessing, who was basking in the luxury of it all. Her eyes sparkled with excitement every time she stepped out onto the London streets, dressed in designer clothes. He had given her the life she had always dreamed of, and in return, she would give him the son he had always wanted. He grinned to himself. Yes, this was worth it. Back home, Chief Nboli's colleagues thrived on power, money, and government appointments. Money ruled everything, and they reveled in the intoxicating rush of spending it lavishly. For them, true wealth came from looting the treasury, and the more they stole, the greater their hunger for billions. It was an addiction, one that made past regimes look like models of integrity. Chris Ikika had emerged as a formidable contender for the gubernatorial race. The current governor, his political godfather, had anointed him as his successor. The press had already labeled Chief Nboli as the underdog. But he was not a man to be underestimated. Chief Nboli had spent countless nights envisioning himself as governor. He had already mapped out his new life, how he would rule, the policies he would push, the wealth and influence he would accumulate. More importantly, once he secured the ticket, Blessing would officially become his wife. The thought thrilled him. Soon, they would walk into the State House together, and she would be Her Excellency, the First Lady. It was only a matter of time. Chris might have the governor's backing, but Chief Nboli had something stronger. Powerful party leaders at the national level, including Mrs. Igala. He would crush Chris. He would make sure his rival's political career ended before it even truly began. As he sipped his coffee, Blessing leaned over him, her presence sending a thrill through his body. But even with her warmth beside him, he couldn't shake the thought of Chris Ikika. His rival was in his head, a persistent thorn. Blessing's soft voice interrupted his thoughts. Bobo, I bring more coffee? Chief Nboli sighed heavily, pushing away his frustration. He needed to act fast. He reached for his phone, whispering to himself as he prepared to make a call to Nigeria. Chris will soon learn how a real political demolition job is done. Godfather or no godfather. Blessing stepped out of the bedroom, radiant and poised. Every detail of her appearance exuded luxury. Her hair perfectly styled, her fingernails a shimmering mosaic of designs that had been the talk of the Senate President's mother's grand birthday party last weekend in London. She no longer needed to visit salons. Now the finest hairstylists and beauty technicians came to her, catering to her every whim. It was costly, but worth every penny. She knew Chief Nboli adored her like this. Glamorous, polished, the perfect woman to show off. Abuja was filled with many women like Blessing, women who understood the game. They didn't expect a man like Chief Nboli to be theirs alone. If he came around, he came. If he was absent for months, attending to his official family, so be it. What mattered was what he brought to the table: wealth, luxury, and an elevated status in society. For Blessing, Chief Nboli was a golden ticket, a man who would provide her with a fully furnished duplex in Igovia GRA, a brand new Lexus, and a generous monthly allowance. She had won the jackpot. Blessing sometimes wondered how different her life would have been if she hadn't visited Chief Nboli's country mansion that fateful afternoon. Now, she never had to worry about working a day in her life. She thought about Seb, the man who never truly understood her. He never saw the necessity of driving a Jeep, never grasped the importance of living in luxury. But Chief did. He understood that for a woman like her, appearances mattered. In their country, people lived to impress, even if it was all smoke and mirrors. Now, she had the means to flaunt her wealth, to remind others where they stood in society. The thrill of watching envious eyes linger on her lifestyle brought an intoxicating sense of satisfaction. Blessing smiled at Chief Nboli, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Chief, I have something to tell you," she said softly. Before she could say more, a sudden wave of nausea overtook her. She clutched her stomach and rushed to the kitchen sink. Violent retching echoed through the room, her body convulsing as if she were being torn apart from the inside. Chief Nboli was by her side in an instant, concern etched across his face. Blessing rinsed her mouth, struggling to catch her breath, her forehead glistening with sweat. "Blessing, are you ill?" he asked. She turned to him, breathless but steady. "No, Chief, that's what I was trying to tell you. I'm pregnant." Chief Nboli's expression shifted from worry to pure joy. His face lit up, and with uncontained excitement he said, "You should have said this earlier. I thought you were coming down with malaria. But malaria in London? This is really good news." Blessing gazed at Chief Nboli, seeing the sheer joy in his eyes. As he pulled her into a warm embrace, his voice was full of hope. "I hope it is a boy. Please God, let it be a boy this time." Blessing's heart raced. That was exactly what she had hoped for. A boy would change everything. It would solidify her place in Chief Nboli's life, and marriage would no longer be just a distant dream. She carefully masked her elation and sat with him on the plush leather settee. The pieces of her plan were falling into place. She thought back to the last time she had been with Seb, just a week before that fateful party. But all of that was irrelevant now. This baby had to be for Chief Nboli. More than anything, it had to be a boy. The thought of carrying the chief's heir felt like stepping from unbearable heat into the cool comfort of an air-conditioned car. She was on the ride of her life, and all she had to do was enjoy it. Every thought of the pregnancy filled Blessing with excitement. Every night, she whispered the same prayer: "Let this child be a boy." But she knew her path was not without obstacles. There was one formidable enemy standing in her way: Mrs. Alaba Nboli. Blessing had no doubt that the moment Alaba heard the news, she would stop at nothing to destroy her. People said Alaba was a woman of influence, one who would consult powerful forces to ensure Blessing and her unborn child never stood a chance. She would not take any risks. She needed to protect herself, the baby, and her rise to the top of the chief's household. Blessing decided she would bring in the overseer, the bishop, and the pastor from her church. They would pray, fast, and provide holy water for protection. She would pay whatever it cost. The church would be thrilled with the donation, and in return, she would secure divine assurance that nothing would stand in her way.